Welcome to the SPSS tutorial video on SPSS Help options. In this video, we'll discuss the variety of help options available for SPSS. We'll talk about finding and using the help for menu options, talk about help for syntax, as well as finding help online. The dataset we'll be using for this video is the therapy dataset. However, the data are actually irrelevant because we'll be focusing solely on the help menus within SPSS. Now first, if you see the help menu option in SPSS, you'll notice that it has a number of options. We'll talk first about the tutorials, then about case studies, and lastly about statistics coach. First, if we select the tutorial, you'll see that a number of options become available. As one example, we might want to know more about how to create and edit charts within SPSS. If we select this topic, we'll see that a tutorial begins. There's first an overview of the tutorial that tells us it will show examples for how to create bar charts, pie charts, and scatter plots. If we scroll through using the arrows like any computer tutorial, we'll see that it walks through the basics of tutorials, where some instructions are posted on this right column, as well as how to choose menus using the graphs and chart builder options. If we continue to scroll through, it shows more of the menu commands as well as an ongoing dialog box about how to work through the examples. We won't go through this complete example because it's relatively long, but you'll notice that the examples includes considerable amount of information if you expand the screen, and you can continue selecting to the right to walk through each step of the tutorial. I'll close this out for now. Under the Help menu, we can also find case studies that will illustrate how to conduct different types of statistics. It'll work through examples and illustrate the menu commands and output related to each example. For the vast majority of analyses you'll be using, it'll be found under the statistics base function. You can see here that descriptive statistics, means, t-tests, ANOVAs, linear regression, correlations, many of the analyses discussed in these help videos from CSULB are illustrated in the case studies. If we select on t-tests as one example, it begins to walk through a tutorial again, where we can choose between one sample, paired sample, and independent tests. I'll choose independent t-tests. Again, it begins with an overview. If we move over to the arrows, we can walk through the general example and description of t-tests. And then, as I scroll through somewhat quickly here, will show us how to use the menu commands and what each looks like. Instead of appearing as videos, it appears as a series of screenshots, also including the syntax you can use for creating these in syntax if you prefer to use that option rather than the menu commands. I'll close out of this option for now, but as you can see, there are a plethora of options available under these case studies. If you're not sure which type of analysis to use, the right option then is the statistics coach. Under the statistics coach, it asks you the question of what do you want to do? Do you want to summarize, describe, or present data? In this particular example, let's examine identifying significant relationships between variables. It then asks you what type of data do you have? Let's imagine that we have two continuous data on an interval or ratio scale. And it asks us how many variables. In this case, we'll choose 2. It asks us whether you want to display tables and numbers or charts. We can choose tables. And it tells us that from the menu commands, we need to choose analyze, correlate, and bivariate to demonstrate the Pearson correlation coefficient. This has already been illustrated in a different video, but you can see how the statistics coach will walk you through each type of analysis if you're unsure of what to do. Combining the statistics coach with the case studies and tutorials by going to the help topics, or I'm going to select on a case study, it takes us directly to the tutorial and case study options within the other SPSS help menus. Most students who begin using SPSS tend not to use these help menus very quickly. But when you become proficient with using the help menus, you notice that SPSS gives a great deal of help, and it links that type of help within the program. Many students begin using the menu commands because they're more familiar with this type of layout. However, students who continue using SPSS often switch to using syntax. One way of showing syntax is if we go to Analyze, I can choose any analysis here. I'll simply choose a correlation for this example, and I'll include a correlation between time 1 and time 2. Instead of hitting OK, we'll actually choose Paste. Now when we paste a variable, it brings up this new syntax menu. You can see the title is called the syntax in Syntax Editor. And this command here is the code or the syntax that SPSS uses underneath its menu options. For every menu click you choose, it's creating new syntax that creates the analysis. You can save this as a separate file, or you can edit as you like. We might use, for example, optimism. We might add optimism as a new variable within our correlation. So here we can run full analyses from within syntax. If you're just beginning to use syntax and you want to see different options, you can find help by highlighting some word, like correlations, and clicking on this question mark tab for syntax help. When I click on it, you'll see a great deal of options for syntax help. If I scroll below, it uses examples of correlations and several related topics. Sorting through some of these examples and topics can help you become more proficient with using syntax. As I close out of syntax help and close out of my syntax menu, the last option I want to discuss is finding help online. We can go to a search menu, something like Google, and type in, for example, ANOVA in SPSS. What we'll often find is a variety of help topics that appear right away. Instructors who are often good at statistics often want to post that information online. We can find a lot of different help menus. As you can see here, a number of options come up. We have PDF files, we have online files, we can even go on the videos and frequently find YouTube videos for how to do, for example, a two-way repeated measures ANOVA or a one-way analysis of variance. Part of why instructors don't post these links within their classes is that YouTube links often change quickly. If you do a quick search for the analysis you want to run, however, you can frequently find additional help videos, or if you click back to everything, and we choose, for example, the first link we see, we might get additional tutorials for what a test does, what the statistical assumptions are included, and how to run an example, as well as down below, the menu commands and screenshots for how to run a one-way ANOVA. I'll click back. Typically, people who teach statistics often post their lectures online. They might post handouts. Some of these PDF or Word document files are very often screenshots that illustrate how to use these statistics. If you're struggling in class or just simply want to know more about each statistic, you can look for information online by a simple search. Simply typing in the type of statistic you want to learn and including SPSS will typically bring up a number of search options. Make sure you find university-supported options though. For example, universityofdayton.edu has produced this file. I would trust that one considerably more than a Wikipedia or some other site. A site such as columbia.edu is likely going to provide accurate information. Although the information may not always be provided on the most up-to-date format for SPSS, you might also type in the version of SPSS you're looking for, version 19 for example, with a new search, and we can find new types of files. Here are YouTube videos for SPSS 19. We can scroll below and find a number of learning modules, step-by-step tutorials. Many statistics students search for additional help, and this should provide an easier way for finding that.